Your hands.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening and warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Smart 24 TV and we drive your business. My name is Anthony Sebale and this is The Point. And on The Point, of course, we get to analyze economic policy. Now, today, in a special way, we are discussing the 2023-2024 budget. And of course, our very special guests, like I'm going to introduce them in a few. But if you're watching from our YouTube platform, you can always give us feedback through the comment section. Simply go to our YouTube channel, that's Smart24 TV, and get to give us feedback in the comment section. You can also go to our Twitter, that is at Smart24 TV now, for us to get that feedback as well by following us, and we shall definitely follow you back. Now, today joining me on set to discuss national budget and more is none other than, first of all, Honorable Dennis Onekalit, who is the MP of Kitgum Municipality. And of course, he's here to give us a little bit of what they have been going through to see that we have this budget on the table. I also have another very special guest, and this is none other than the Executive Director of CS-BAG. CS-BAG is Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, under which, of course, we have several civil society organizations that monitor and see and ensure that the budget process is as it should be, and especially for the citizen, making sure that the budget is made for the citizen. And this is Mr. Mukandane Julius. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you. A pleasure being here, and good evening, viewers.
Yes, most welcome, Honorable.
Yeah, thank you, my brother Anthony and Comrade Julius. Anthony, I'm impressed by how well you're pronouncing Kitgum. It's surprising that many people pronounce Kitgum as Kitgum. So when I heard you pronounce Kitgum very well, I feel like you're part of us.
Thank you. We're here to find out. Absolutely.
I want to thank you so much, Anthony, for the good command of the show that you always make.
Yeah.
I also want to thank from the bottom of my heart the management of Smart24 TV for always giving us time to come and liberate issues to the citizens of this country. And my good brother here.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, we are talking about the national budget 2023-2024. But even before we go ahead into the allocations, the priorities, and so on and so forth, why do you think Ugandans or citizens should remain interested in the national budget matters? We have these sentiments going around that it's the same thing. We're just going to have the minister come up and just read figures and people go home. And you find this, that over 80% of the public doesn't care. But as the legislator, as executive director of CS-BAG, why do you think, even to this point, a citizen should be interested in the national budget? I'll start with you, Mr. Honorable Dennis.
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother Anthony. I think it is very important for the citizens of Uganda to be not only interested in the budget, but very interested in the budget. You see, a national budget, by its own status, means a lot for a country growth and progress. And every one of us, every single Ugandan, is by law and also by etiquettes mandated to know exactly what the national budget entails. And as such, it is quite necessary for all of us to take keen interest on every penny, on every little finances which is budgeted, and how it is going to be utilized and how it's going to be accounted for. The only unfortunate bit of it, Anthony, that's why now the question comes as for why should a citizen be concerned and take keen interest on the budget. Currently, it seems the budgetary processes and its execution has lost meaning. Why? It is simply because some of the targeted areas that would actually benefit the ordinary citizen of this country is not put at as a top priority. If we can really up our games on our top priority targets, that really benefit exactly the real citizen of this country who is down at the grassroots, who is supposed to be assisted, who is supposed to be removed from subsistence economy to the money economy. If we can really bolster our move in key sectors, actually priority targets, agriculture, name them, there are very many. So I think one of the reasons why citizens are slowly and actually massively losing interest in the national budget processes and what it takes, it is simply because it does not touch their interest, does not help them to progress. Instead, it milks from them the little that they get.
Mr. Mundane, what do you think is something for the citizens to be interested?
I think for me really is, I have a different option. I think I have a belief that the interest in the budget has increased. Okay. And let me tell you why. Because of the level of debate in the budget process. I can tell you the analysis we have today is far much more better than the analysis we had 10 years ago. 10 years ago, the CS bags were just starting even to understand what a budget is. We didn't know what it is. We didn't even know where to get the information from. Today, is even as the minister is going to read the budget, we just have each and every information that we need. I believe because we have really exhausted the budget from the beginning, it is starting, when of course by July, a new budget process is going to start and everybody is being consulted. When we are reaching at this particular level, people tend to feel like what's new that is going to come up. Because January, remember, our honorable members have already looked at the National Budget Framework paper and everybody is beginning to understand what is there. And it is then that you really find that even the newspapers, the media begin to pick up information. But apart from that is that there is so much information about the budget that we never had before. The economic updates that have been given on a monthly basis, the debt reports that have been given on a regular basis, to the extent that even an ordinary person is beginning to question actually the way budget resources are being allocated. So I believe that more citizens are getting to understand the budget, are getting to know its implication. Why people said previously you would find people on a radio is because everybody was anxious. Because everybody didn't know what exactly will the minister say. Is he going to increase the taxes? So everybody was anxious. But now everybody is relaxed because we know, all the tax proposals are out there even before the financial year ends. So I believe that really it has increased only that the involvement now people at this particular level that we have almost exhausted what actually is in the budget. Absolutely. Yes. But for me is we should all get interested in the budget. Because each and every coin that the government spends is out of our pockets. And that if we don't get involved, we are the ones to lose out as a citizen.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mkundane. Now, getting to look at this budget, we're talking about 52.7 trillion. This is as usual an increment on the usual budgets we've had before, from about 45.59 trillion in the last 3 years to now over 52.73 trillion. And when you look at where this money, the increment is coming from, mainly it's from the increase in the domestic resource mobilization, which is now from 25.55 trillion to 29.67 trillion. And URA having at least 27.42 trillion in the next financial year. First of all, talking about the increments, are these increments prudent at this point in time? Because even before, in around Feb, during the National Budget Framework paper discussions, we had the budget at least 49 trillion. But then later on, just a few weeks actually, to June 14, we saw supplementary budgets, which we are now getting used to. Are these increments prudent? Are we looking at what is going to actually be prioritized in the next financial year? Or we are just actually coming up with supplementaries all of a sudden? Honorable Dennis, I'll start with you.
He's the one who approved it.
Anthony, yes. When you talk about the supplementary, I laugh. Uganda is quite funny in such a way that when we are budgeting, we also preempt it. We preempt supplementary. That is why so often, immediately the budget is passed. Doesn't take long. You will hear there's a supplementary budget coming. Why? That one comes simply because there is a section in the government that believe that they can hide certain resources in the supplementary budget. Particularly when it comes to this other one, how do you call it? The one you don't ask for accountability for. Classified. When it comes to classified budget, what always happens is that what is given, they leave out some very important areas, not exposed. Then those important areas that they know the country will yearn for comes as for supplementary. The bigger budget goes for classified. Now, when you look at the classified budget, you wonder how big is the president's office, how much it is taking when you look at that figure, when you look at the figure of electricity bill alone, how much the president used per day. It is really amazing, terrible for this country. So with supplementary expected will come. And of course, as the law now stated, the rules now stated at Parliament, that the high have it. The Speaker would say the high have it. And the NRM being the majority members of Parliament, definitely when it comes to voting, some of the, like for example, now they're back from Chankwazi. You don't know, you never know what they have discussed. And we are actually anxious waiting for what next when we resume from recess, what is coming on the table. So it is very unpredictable. Issues of supplementary budget is very unpredictable, is very common. It comes actually at time on a very important items, which has been intentionally left out from the budget to wait for the time, and yet the real money that would have been budgeted for that particular item normally is taken for classified, which is quite unfortunate.
Mr. Mukundani, your thoughts on supplementary budget, especially just few days away from the reading of the national budget?
I mean, the experience is that any supplementary budget that is approved towards the end of the financial year is actually not used. I mean, unless this supplementary budget was spent. But you know, the minister has the power to spend 3% of the budget without parliamentary approval. Anything in excess of that, he requires a parliamentary approval. So if that excess, the excess that we are talking about, was not spent but was coming for parliamentary approval, I highly doubt that with our capacity to absorb money, we shall be able to absorb these resources that we have approved just 1 month towards the end of the financial year. Nevertheless, is that we have abused the supplementary budget process, or as an instrument in the budget making process. You know, a supplementary budget, and the Honorable knows it, is supposed to be to ask for a supplementary budget. It must be unavoidable.
Yes.
It must be unpredictable, and it must be unabsorbable. Unavoidable is that something has happened, you can't postpone it to next financial year. It must be done there and then. Unpredictable are disasters. I mean, you have Duda, you have COVID-19, Ebola. Those are unpredictable. Those require supplementary. Unabsorbable is that something has happened, but the resources you have no wiggle room to reallocate within. So it requires that supplementary budget. Now, when you look at the list of the supplementary expenses that we are having, and why it says this supplementary budget process has abused the budget process, because it actually disempowers members of parliament. You recall very well that they threw out money for Munyonyo, Commonwealth, you know, there is a meeting we are having, and the minister said, it's okay, don't worry. The moment they finished the budget, he had the 3% wiggle room to spend that money. So you find issues like salaries, areas and salary and pension areas, that can never qualify a supplementary expense. It cannot, because it is not unpredictable. It's not unavoidable. These are things that, as an accounting officer, the first call on your budget is to pay all your salaries, is to make sure that your pension is also fully budgeted for. Before you budget for training workshops, travel abroad, doing other things, that should be the first call on your budget. Then you'll find items that are actually core to a ministry or an agency. And I've been given an example of UNEB. And UNEB, please always forgive me, because they have the concrete example. The core mandate of UNEB is to mark exams. If UNEB does not mark exams, and decides to put other things in the budget, and makes marking exams as an unfunded priority, if UNEB comes in the middle of the financial and says, I don't have money for exams, let me tell you, these MPs will not think of anything else apart from give them money. They must mark exams.
And that's why I told you it is left out intention. There's certain sectors which
yes. So it abuses the whole budget process of what qualifies to be supplementary.
What's the budget process? When you talk about the budget process, by this time of the year, at what stage should we be at? Should we be already looking at supplementaries, or we should actually not be looking at?
Well, you see, by the end of the third quarter, we should not be thinking about supplementary. At the end of the third quarter, actually, you should be concentrated on reporting.
accountability.
And accountability. Reporting, and that's what you should be concentrating on. Because what you have not done in the last 3 quarters, forget about it. In fact, the last quarter, the final quarter, is about preparing the next budget. And that's why I'm not a fan of the National Budget Framework paper. Because really, as the people are beginning to implement, you are telling them to begin preparing the next financial year budget. Because you are telling them that by December, end of December, they should have a National Budget Framework paper that proposes what they intend to plan for the next financial year. I believe they should kick out that one and let people concentrate on reporting and preparing the national budget in the next financial. So this time around right now, nobody should be implementing. It should be wrapping up.
Yeah.
Prepare your reports properly so that you are ready for the audit, for example, so that you've prepared the next financial year, and you prepare to implement the projects you have put in to start in the next in the next financial year. So this is not the time to do a supplementary budget, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just like my brother said, there are basically 4 stages of budgeting that we have here. Number 1 is preparation, preparing the budget. Number 2 is authorization. As members of parliament, we are prepared and we authorize. Then number 3 is execution. Number 4 is accountability. Now, when you look at what my brother has been talking about, we are asking for supplementary budget at the time of accountability, not execution. So at what time will you execute that budget?
Yeah.
When we even report.
And when will you report?
Yeah. Talking about the priorities in this budget. In this budget, I remember Honorable Henry Musasizi, while tabling this budget, he said the priority, just like last year, is putting people in the money economy. And last year, one of the things that was done is wealth creation funds through mainly PDM is where we had our targets to see that we bring people in the money economy. Let's talk about a year ago, Honorable Dennis. According to your, let's say in Kitgum, did we have the parish development model actually reach out?
You should tell us how the PDM is working.
How was this implemented? Because of course now we are going to go into the same thing, if at all we don't look back and see how was actually the PDM in Kitgum last year. How did it perform in your own municipality?
Actually, PDM is dead on arrival. And the animal called PDM, when it was brought at Parliament, I am one person who stood up and reputed it. I remember I made 2 comments. Number 1, I asked the speaker that it is better we first really analyze and find out if IMI Yoga has done it purposed. Has IMI Yoga worked to the capacity that we expected? Then 2, I wanted PDM to be regionalized. You see, when you talk about 100 million given per parish, it is not enough, first of all. Besides it's not being enough, that 100 million definitely will go to the usual suspect. The people who knows how to write the proposal, how to receive those money. The usual people who used to get the money. And yet, from the onset, the real initiative, the real actually reason why PDM has been brought is to remove people from subsistence economy to the money economy. And who are the people under subsistence economy? It was laughable how they classified them. The active poor. Who is a lazy poor? Now the active poor, they say the borders, those who are handling saloons, those are the active poor. Now, I made a proposal that it would have actually been very important, very good, and very consequential if PDM was regionalized. For example, in actually sub-region where I come from, we have vast land, which is very fertile. Instead of giving us that money that will not really be realized, if the result will not be realized, give us tractor per sub-county and facilitate us with seedlings and seeds so that we utilize our land properly well. He who wants to go and cultivate will pick the tractor and put fuel, goes to the garden. And we shall see the result directly on the subsistent person who is supposed to be brought in the money economy. When you go to the Western Uganda, they have coffee. Invest in coffee. You come to Central, there is also coffee. Invest in coffee. And those with maize and tea, you also invest in that. If you could have, if you had regionalized, actually PDM would work much better. Now the danger is, PDM has been linked to all priority targets of the government program. And yet we are all aware that PDM will not work. You see, the act is absurd.
And that's the priority we're having in this budget.
It's very unfortunate. Anything we are doing, we realize is linked to PDM.
Yeah.
Use also PDM. Use PDM. And yet PDM will not work.
Mr. Mkundane, before going to the break, your thoughts on priority.
Leave alone the money that has already been stolen.
Budget.
Leave alone.
Mr. Mkundane, we have over 1.146 trillion for the 10,594 circles this time round. Are we going to see results from PDM?
First of all, PDM is a good idea. I don't know, remember. I think the challenge is, you see, once bitten, twice shy. When you have such a good program and you go to the history on how we manage programs, then you begin to say, why the hell are we even spending this money? We're going to lose it. But I think history also teaches us in terms of what do we need to correct to be better in terms of implementation. Indeed, the first round of PDM money was eaten. And his constituency actually is the culprit.
500 something.
No,
my constituency is smart, but the district.
I mean, even in Kabale, actually, I think in Kabale, you know, where people sit.
There are about 11 districts.
Sit and divide the money. And the people will say, oh, it's because of colonialism. You know, people say,
I need to bring some little highlights on that. The biggest challenge that led to squandering of that money came actually on issues of the utilization method. The first letter that was issued to the cows of all the district give the cow and the executive open check to use that money for sensitization and mobilization. And then the second, then the second letter that was given was instructing them to use only 20%. The stubborn cows actually got stuck on the first one that gave them the leverage. And that's how they ended up dividing the money.
So, I mean, so really for me is that the idea is good. We need to strengthen the implementation method. And I think PDM is suffering from the same challenges the government of Uganda faces in any other project that we have. Call it a road, call it boreholes, call it building schools, health centers, the same things. Lack of preparedness. The moment this government gets a very good idea, they just run with it. Not knowing, you can have a very good idea, but when the rubber hits the road, it's the different mechanism of implementing it. If you are not prepared, the project will die, however good it is. So when he is saying about the letters, first of all, we have this good idea, we're sending money, but we have no guidelines. So people are likely to mess up. And that's why I intentionally did not want even to look at its performance the first year, because it was going to be messed up. But this time around, now we are preparing ourselves, because we say we've learned lessons. Anybody who ate money, let him go to jail. Let us recover our money. But now everybody must have guidelines on how it's going to be. It's going to be implemented. Will it work out? Considering that the way we have been doing things, there will still be some stubborn accounting officers who still want to eat the money. But if we have very stringent guidelines and laws, then we pick them up. Yes, and throw them into jail.
We're going to come back. We're going to come back after a very short break, Mr. Mugundani and Honorable Dennis. Now, one of the challenges we have is implementation. Yes, we do have these very wonderful figures read out to us, but at times implementation is the challenge. Now, looking at last year, government paid at least 1.34 trillion, or about 360 million US dollars in servicing undisbursed public debt for 6 months to December 2022. And the public debt grants, guarantees, and so on are going on to the next budget. How do we address some of these implementation challenges? My name is Anthony. You're watching The Point. We'll return shortly.